Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we end the Thrawn Trilogy this time around. I'm your host, as always, Nathan P. Butler. We've already taken a look at the first two books of the Thrawn Trilogy from 1991 and 1992. That's Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising. Amidst that, of course, we had other releases going on. The Trioculus Saga / Jedi Prince series, whatever you want to call it, that came from Paul and Hollis Davids. We had the Dark Empire comics and such being released. So we're at a point where fans are being reintroduced to Star Wars in multiple media, and yet the first big story that relaunched that saga in a galaxy far, far away, the official continuity, now known as Legends, we'll get to that in our next episode, is finally concluding. It's finally wrapping up. And in this case, it's another of these books that was first released in hardback. This is your original copy here. This is says the gripping conclusion to the #1 best-selling saga, Star Wars, Volume 3 of a 3-book cycle, The Last Command. And then notes that Timothy Zahn's a Hugo Award-winning author there. Nothing glossy. A lot of these older books, you can see a little bit of puffiness, perhaps a little bit of separation here around those embossed letters. That tends to happen quite a bit with these older books. But nice solid hardback, and on the back, just praise for the previous books. There really is no opening crawl of any kind. There's not one inside the book. There's not one here. Closest thing you got is the description in here that's just basically solicitation text. So, The Last Command, named after the last command telepathically given by Emperor Palpatine / Darth Sidious to his hand, or one of his hands, we later find out, Mara Jade, which is, "You will kill Luke Skywalker," which becomes kind of a driving force of the climax of this book. Thank goodness that was his last command, something dramatic. Instead of it being right before he dies, "You will pick up my laundry on the way back to the Death Star." Because then you'd have a whole book about Mara trying to find the Emperor's robes or something. And his underwear, probably. What do you think? You think Palpatine was a boxer or a brief guy? Or is that just something we really don't want to start to imagine? Now, there was a comic adaptation of this, again by Mike Baron, using the original story from Timothy Zahn, that then appeared as a 6-issue series. Checking out the covers here, and all kind of very poster art-ish here, so not a lot of text on the cover. There's cover number 1. Number 2, with Mara having a really bad hair day on there. Number 3. 4. 5. And finally, 6. Now, the original novel was published in May of 1993, approximately 2 years after Heir to the Empire. The comic adaptation began being published in late 1997, carrying over into 1998. Then its trade paperback form was released in 1999, and then all 3 of the comic adaptations, all 3 trade paperbacks were combined together to create simply a Thrawn Trilogy omnibus, if you want to call it that. It was just called the Thrawn Trilogy at the time, not in the omnibus series, which was released in 2009. Story-wise, this was a big one. It's very much a culmination of what we got with the previous 2 books, and in a sense is a setup for Dark Empire, though remember, Dark Empire wasn't meant to be coming after the Thrawn Trilogy, was meant to be before originally. So here we see the defeat of Thrawn, and then in the interim between this and what we got with Dark Empire, there's that Imperial sort of uprising back on Coruscant, taking it back over and whatnot. Pretty early on in this book, we get the culmination of Leia's pregnancy with the birth of Jacen and Jaina Solo. They would become major players throughout the rest of the EU. In this case, though, it's just the birth. And actually, that does play a chronological role here, because when we were doing the dated battle maps for the Essential Atlas, that is this big bad boy here, by Jason Fry and Dan Wallace, one of the things that we had in it was a dated battle map for the Thrawn campaign. And I was in charge, basically, of coming up with the in-universe digital calendar dates for that, for one for the Hunt for Zinj, and for one for the taking of Coruscant by the New Republic in the X-Wing books. And those are all within a matter of years of each other. So they kind of played off of each other. Once you get the battle for Coruscant and everything, pretty soon after that, the Hunt for Zinj begins, as that is ending you also have a follow-up novel, Tatooine Ghost. But then when you look at Tatooine Ghost, there's a scene in that book that a lot of fans had thought maybe it was meant to be the conception of Jason and Jaina. Maybe they were leading into the lights go down, and this is where they're conceived. But if that's the case, then that has to be 9 months from when they are born. And I actually checked with Leland Chi, hey, is this official? He said no. Can we make it official? And we used that idea as the linkage between when to make the birth of the children take place within its year in relation to back with Tatooine Ghost and its relation back to Hunt for Zinj, which tied into all the X-Wing stuff. So really, their birth and the timing of that was a linchpin in how this all wound up fitting together. So yes, that scene in Tatooine Ghost is presumably their conception or right around that time, hence the connection here. It's a good series. One of my favorites out there. It's the one that I've reread the most out of the modern Star Wars novels. We start off with the launch of the Solo family, in a sense, beyond just the married couple with Jason and Jaina. Of course, Anakin will come a little while later on, and yes, Lucas will say that we are too stupid to be able to have stories with Anakin Solo and Anakin Skywalker side by side in the same publishing era, not chronological era, so he will demand that it be Jason who survives and Anakin who dies in Star by Star rather than the other way around. That's a whole other issue for another time. And we finally get this climactic battle against Thrawn. And for the most part, it's a two-part battle that becomes three. It's very much like Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi has the Battle of Endor. We're used to thinking that as three pieces, right? You've got the battle in space, the Endor strike team, and then the throne room with Luke versus Vader versus Palpatine, with Palpatine kind of in there against Luke, but then eventually in that last few seconds against Vader. And we sometimes forget that actually starts out as two. Luke breaks away from the Endor strike team and winds up on the Death Star. But originally, he's supposed to be part of that original strike team. That's kind of what you got here. You got a battle in space, Battle of Bilbringi, and all this stuff happening in space. And then on Wayland, you have another battle that is going on, and that starts with a strike team that includes Luke and Mara, but they get diverted from everyone else to wind up in a confrontation with Joruus C'baoth and his creation/apprentice, which we'll get to here. So essentially, it's another classic Star Wars ending, a climactic battle in multiple locations. Another reason why this trilogy really feels like Star Wars films in a lot of ways. It's very well paced and designed to fit the films, despite some heavy-handed references here and there to lines from the films. But again, with these being the first EU novels officially, because the stuff before 1991 didn't count originally, we could sort of forgive a lot of those heavy-handed references, though looking back on it, they stick out like sore thumbs. In the end, though, it really comes down to two things: betrayal and a cool lightsaber battle amidst the other battles that are going on. The betrayal was an interesting one, and there are a lot of people who say that this weakens the story to a degree. You have the fact that Leia has revealed the truth behind Darth Vader's machinations and the Empire's machinations on the Nogri, or the Nogri, however you're supposed to pronounce it. And the idea that they have now turned and joined the New Republic, and they're helping the fight on Wayland, but also we see the change in Rook, who is the personal Nogri bodyguard to Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is finally the one who kills him, right? Stabbing him through the chest and everything, so he winds up dying aboard the Chimera. It's not one of our main heroes that takes him out. And that was controversial for a while. Well, Luke should have taken him out. Leia should have taken him out. The Rebel fleet should have blown up his ship. But instead what we get is a betrayal because of Thrawn and the Empire's earlier betrayal of Rook's people. And I like that, because that plays very well into this dynamic of paralleling what we got with Return of the Jedi. Because what do we have in Return of the Jedi? It's not Luke that defeats Palpatine. Luke is on the ground writhing from the, the Force lightning, Father, please save me, and all this stuff, with that very, very creepy moment where the lightning travels across his teeth. That is always the thing that creeps me out about that scene. Until Vader finally, recognizing all the things he's been put through and the betrayals that he's gone through at the hands of Palpatine, isn't willing to serve Palpatine at the cost of his own son's life. And finally turns on him. Whether he turns on him silently or with the Blu-ray 2011, no kind of moment here. He grabs Palpatine, throws him down the reactor shaft. Okay? So it is a betrayal by someone who, in a sense, has been manipulated and betrayed before. And that's what we've got here with Rook. So to me, this works great as an ending, despite the controversy that it did have for a little while at the time. But we also get this great lightsaber battle, this force battle, something we've been really building up towards throughout this series, waiting to see the final big lightsaber duel, because, hey, Star Wars stories always have to end with the big lightsaber duel, right? And what we get is, it's kind of weird. It's Joruus C'baoth, or we should say Joruus C'baoth, right? The double U, not W, but a U and then another U, meaning he's a clone. That idiocy that was started by Zahn saying, well, how do you tell they're a clone when they're in print? We'll just double one of the vowels. That's the ticket, which makes it really ridiculous when you're trying to say it out loud. Joruus C'baoth, or Joruus C'baoth. He's there versus Luke and Mara, but so is a clone of Luke Skywalker. A clone of Luke to battle against him, and this winds up giving us a very creative way to get away from that driving, you will kill Luke Skywalker, the last command, like the book, because Mara killing the clone Luke basically fulfills that goal, that fulfills that command. Now, you can make the argument that this is semantics, and that whole command shouldn't have gone away, because she knew that wasn't the real Luke, and the command wasn't, you will kill Luke, or Luke Skywalker. It was supposed to be the real him. But they used that as her way out of that command, and that winds up working well enough. The origins of that clone, though, are pretty cool. There's this way of looking at the Star Wars Expanded Universe, the official continuity or Legends continuity, as basically being something that looks for little bitty gaps in stories or unexplained items and uses them to tell new stories, to weave a broader tapestry, or to grab on nitpicky little details depending on whether you are for or against that particular continuity. Well, this one all revolves around this baby. The lightsaber. Notice the sound effects aren't exactly in sync on this one. The lightsaber that Anakin Skywalker had in Revenge of the Sith, that was then taken by Obi-Wan Kenobi at the end of Revenge of the Sith, kept and given to Luke Skywalker in A New Hope, that he is then carrying with him in the duel with Darth Vader on Cloud City on Bespin in The Empire Strikes Back, when he gets his hand lopped off and loses both the hand and the lightsaber. They were never recovered, right, in the films. So we never knew what happened to it. Next time we see Luke, he has built a new lightsaber. Well, they picked up on that with this idea of, well, what happened to the lightsaber? Well, wait a second. Not only what happened to the lightsaber, what happened to the hand? And we say that just like Joruus C'baoth was cloned from a Jedi, so was Luke cloned from Luke with that hand. We eventually get the story, The Emperor's Trophy, a little short story that tells the story of how the hand is recovered and brought back and all that kind of stuff. But it's this idea that genetic material allows there to be sort of a dark, evil, going crazy version of Luke to fight here. So we get this cool four-person lightsaber / force battle that ends the story. And at the very end, we see Mara brought into the New Republic fold, in a sense, and she is given that lightsaber. Now, she doesn't use it throughout her entire career. We wind up seeing her with other lightsabers later, like the purple one that she's used before. We wind up seeing in something like, for instance, Mysteries of the Sith, the expansion off of Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. But it's that cool moment of, wow, there's really sort of a passing of the torch. He's giving this film prop as a film character to an expanded universe character. Wow, it's sort of dubbing her as part of the reality and all. Really a good story, one of my favorite Star Wars books, like I said, and again, the one that I've probably reread the most, or at least this trilogy that I've reread the most. A cornerstone of what became the official continuity, or Legends continuity, as we are now calling it, apparently, as of April 25th of 2014. So, our regular question here, is this story an essential read? That is, for the Legends or official continuity. The answer is yes. Absolutely. The Thrawn Trilogy is a cornerstone. This is the climax of that story. You do need to read this if you're going to be reading the rest of that particular timeline. No doubt about it. Now, coming up in our next 2 episodes, 1, a look at the impact of the canon announcement that I just mentioned from April of 2014, what it does to continuity, what continuity is, that sort of thing, all wrapped up into one little episode. We'll be seeing that. And then immediately after that, a supplement episode that probably won't matter in the far future, that'll run down all the different projects I'm involved with and what their fate is now, owing to the canon announcement and other things. For now, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.